Oahu, the Honolulu City Council will hear a bill aiming to make the roads safer for bicyclists and e-bikers. And joining me live in studio to talk more about this, Councilmember Dos Santos-Tam and Eduardo Hernandez from the Hawaii Bicycling League. Good morning, and thank you both for joining us.
Morning.
Tyler, I know you introduced this bill, so let's talk about the need for this type of legislation right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the news almost every single day. There are people riding these bicycles in inappropriate places, doing just really crazy things, often for social media. And the reality is that these are not toys. Riding is a privilege, and people need to behave accordingly.
And of course, we have seen an uptick in injuries. We just had one recently on Monday with an e-scooter. So with all these injuries that we're seeing, and as you just mentioned, how people are kind of using them, why hasn't something like this been put forward sooner?
Yeah, part of the challenge is that state law and city laws need to work together. And so on the city side, we're doing what we can. So Councilmember Tolba and I introduced Bill 52, which implements a helmet requirement for those under 18. This is fairly common sense. It regulates the reckless driving. You have to sit on the bicycle in a normal way, no wheelies, none of these stunts. And then the last thing is it regulates where these high-powered devices can go. The really high-powered e-bikes are a lot more like a moped or motorcycle, and shouldn't be on our sidewalk, shouldn't be down these really narrow alleyways or our bike lanes. But for the e-bikes, for the regular bikes, we want to encourage people to get on those, but people need to do it safely.
Oh, Eduardo, of course, you're with the Hawaii Bicycling League. You're assuming you are an avid biker yourself. And can you talk a little bit about road safety for bikers and how, those who drive and other bikers can help limit some of these issues that we're seeing on our roadways?
Sure. Well, we've been around since 1975, and we advocate for people to ride bikes for health, transportation, and recreation. And bicycles are allowed anywhere a vehicle is allowed, with the exception, of course, of our major freeways. So it's important for all road users to recognize that our roads are shared and to look out for other road users, including pedestrians and people riding bicycles. This bill is really important because it identifies this really high class of vehicles that hadn't been well articulated in our code. And it says those are expressly not allowed to be ridden on our roads or bikeways.
So how did the Hawaii Bicycling League help, shape this legislation, and how as happy are you that they are taking it up?
Sure. Well, we've been really grateful for the leadership of Councilmember Dos Santos and for Councilmember Tolba, who really, they are bicyclists themselves. And so they see how people in their districts get around. And getting around by bicycle when you live in Honolulu, we have great weather. We have a growing network of bike lanes. We have buses that accommodate bicycles. And so it really is possible. You don't have to totally get rid of your car, but you can figure out maybe there's some trips that you can make using a bicycle. And every time we do that, every single trip, that adds up, and that helps us reduce carbon emissions, gets us some exercise, and moves it along.
As you just mentioned, we are seeing increase in bike lanes. And I will say, we have a bike lane right here on King Street, and I see every single day when I'm coming and going from the station just an increase in people using bikes, riding bikes, and utilizing those bike lanes. And I think that's always great to see, but a good reminder for drivers to not just check for those blind spots for those lanes, but also for those bike lanes. Of course, Tyler, City Council meeting today, and it's a decision day. So talk to me about how today's meeting could go and what would happen moving forward.
Yeah, well, we've put in a lot of work on this. Councilmember Tolba and I, we have worked with the city administration, HPD, prosecuting attorney's office to convene a working group, including the Bicycling League and other advocates. And so we've put in a lot of homework. And we're hoping that today we can get something across the finish line. It is on the council agenda. We don't anticipate any issues, but later on in the spring, the state legislature is going to be taking up some e-bike legislation as well, and hopefully that'll make some standards statewide, not just in Honolulu, but for the other 3 counties. And in the summertime, we, as the council, may end up revisiting some of these based on what the state does.
And I also want to ask, because I know there was a separate bill pertaining to wheelies, and you have mentioned wheelies a couple times. Has that bill been worked into this one, or is there still a separate bill that we're looking at maybe for another time?
Yeah, so there's still a separate bill, and this is one of the quirks of the legislative process. Our bill only pertains to electric bicycles, and really everything in that package can only be for e-bikes. And so wheelies for other types of devices, traditional bikes and other things, may have to be dealt with in a separate bill. But the main thing is we have some clear, bright lines for HPD to go out and enforce, and they can say, well, this is reckless, this is reckless, this is reckless, please stop.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning and really breaking down how important something like this is. And of course, for all of you, please stick with us. We will be tuning in to that City Council meeting later today, and we'll have updates for you later on Island News.